What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, White River Rambo, and I thought I would bring you along on this electrical episode, and we're going to talk about how I go ahead and wire these boats. Now, this boat's bare, okay? It had a motor in it at one time. We ripped it out, and we cleaned everything out here, including the original console. Obviously, we built a new one. I've got a steering wheel and a control cable coming today, and then we've got switch panels. I'm probably going to keep the old switch panels, but then we'll see about these switches, make sure they're good before we reuse them. These are only a couple bucks. It's really not that big a deal. So, before I jump into this, let's look at what is on the boat. This is just a fishing boat. Bare bones stock fishing boat, okay? Well, it's not stock. It's obviously, we've been welding on it a little bit. But, so, front of the boat, all we're going to have is navigation lights, and I don't even have any right now. So, I'm just going to run a plug up there and let the customer decide what kind of fishing lights he wants, because he's going to mount a trolling motor. And instead of me drilling a hole or sticking something on there that's, you know, what I think would work, I want to make sure he mounts his trolling motor and decides where it's going to go. But as far as the forward part, all we really have to have is the navigation lights. But I may actually run him a trim switch up to the front as well. We'll see about that here in just a second. But as far as the back goes, we got a lot going on back here. So navigation lights right here, and then underneath here we have a bilge pump, a recirculation pump for the live well, and then over there we have the live well pump to bring in fresh water. Okay, so that's 4 electrical connections right here. So right now, I have cut a bunch of different colors of wires. I have, let's see, not that one. That's the trim. But I have 6 wires here. None of these are going to be ground. I only need 4. 2 of them are going to be spares for add-ons. Okay, if he wants to add transom lights back here, or possibly put some deck lights right here on this pad, he'll have wires to do that with. So I cut. First of all, I laid out my batteries are going to be right here underneath the camera. Okay, batteries are going to be right here. And I just measured how far it was from here to where I'm going to mount the fuse box. Don't have the fuse box mounted yet, okay? But here it is. We're just going to have a simple 12-spot fuse box. It will be mounted underneath the console, right in this area, okay? And what I have to do to get that to work is I'm going to run a large ground and positive, okay, to my fuse panel. And then all of these wires, all these little wires, are going to go to my switches. And then the switches themselves will get power from the fuse panel. So that's what we're doing, okay? And to start out with, I'm taking all 6 of these wires and are feeding them into this wire loom to keep all the wires together and give them just a little bit more abrasion resistance. And all I'm doing is taking some electrical tape about every 16 inches or so and just going around it a couple times to keep it in. I have other wires for the motor, I have other wires for the controls, and some of them go this way and some of them go that way. And this is what it takes to make the loom come together. It's not all going to be one shot. So let's break it down. So starting at the control cable, okay, we got our control box right here. That's going to be mounted in this location. On the back side of this, it has a 4-wire cluster. And honestly, I think 2 wires is actually for the tack, but we're only using 2 of these wires. And I'm pretty sure this has been an add-on or something that somebody has modified. But right here on the side of the motor, where it goes, these 2 relays, and then that wire runs down to what appears to be the trim switch. And that's just up and down. Those relays are getting power from the motor, and that's all those 2 wires are doing. But those wires are on that, and they're coming this direction. Back here in the back, there is also a jack plate, and we're going to have wires coming from here to go up there. And it's no big deal, okay? It's already a prepared wire loom, and then there is 3 wires to it. The blue would be power. I'm sorry, the purple would be power, and the blue would be up, and the green would be down. A buddy of mine taught me this, and that is actually a standard. You have to think about it, the color of the sky and the color of the ground. And if you got 3 wires, one of them's going to be power, one of them's going to be the sky, and one of them's going to be the ground. So easy to remember. And then the rest of this is, there is a relay system for it. Okay, we just throw this in the back. And then there is a positive and negative that is fused, and it will go directly to the batteries. So that's pretty much that. Okay, we've got a couple wires there that have to go this way. Oh, and the engine wires, the umbilical for the engine, that will have to be ran through as well. And then on this side, we have our steering cable that has to be run up to our steering wheel. And so, as you can see, there is a handful of things that they're not all going to go in one way and be pulled through all at the same time. You have to plan ahead a little bit. And obviously, on this build, I've planned ahead because the way I have everything laid out, there is room in here to run cables. I've done this enough to know when you're building a boat, there is no sense in trying to run stuff through a 1-inch conduit when it takes 3 of those to be able to cover all this stuff. So I made a little cubby hole. Okay, as you can see, as you can see right here, we got a little cubby hole, and then this piece will be covered up by our accent panel. Well, it just so happened that the UPS man delivered the new steering cable, so we got to get this out of the box. And the original steering cable was a little bent, and it was pretty rough shape, and it was about a foot too short. So I went ahead and got a new one. All right, so I stretched my cable out. You see the red end right here. That's what actually goes into this. Okay, it'll go in one side and come out the other. Of course, this one's got a white tube, and this one over here has actually got a black tube. But anyway, I threaded the cable up underneath here, and then was able to fish it out the hole. All this is going to be solid, and then this right here is just going to be the hole where all of the electrical pieces come out. Real quickly, anytime you do a new cable, you want to make sure that it's greased up well. And I've got some marine grease here, and I pulled this all the way out. And since let's see, if I can get y'all to sit right there, okay? I have the cable all the way out, okay? So at this time, you can see that I can push it all the way in, okay? And that's going to allow me to get it in the tube a little. Next up is our control cables, and the reason I'm putting them through next is they are the second most rigid item, and I want to make sure that I get them in and around the corner and in that tight space. Everything else is going to be pretty pliable and pretty easy to work with. These can be more of a pain in the butt than they are anything, but we're going to go ahead and thread these through, and well, everything should be easy after that. Well, got to eat a sandwich, and the wife come out and help me run some cables. It's not really a difficult thing, but it's easier if you've got someone pushing and pulling. So just to make sure that we didn't, gall up anything. We've got our control cables. I doubled over the trim, and then our umbilical cables ran through, as well as our new wire harness that we've built. You see, I've got some extra laying down there on the floor, and then we also have our jack plate and ran that up here, and then I grabbed a battery and I tested it. Everything's working there. We've got it all the way up there. That great big old Atlas jacker with a 6-inch throw. Sometimes China over delivers, and well, as you can see, got a little bit extra. When I measured this out, it was 12.6, and generally you add a foot. Well, I wasn't going to get anything 13.6, and I was kind of concerned that I was going to be tight with 13 foot, especially with the jack plate, and so I went ahead and ordered a 14-footer. It's just really, really long, but we got to have one of these stand-up, sit-down consoles, so if we have to go down and go up, it'll be fine. Just not ideal for me. We've got everything ran through this hole, just like we're supposed to. I went ahead and you guys saw me put the control cable on, and then I stretched out the harness for the jack plate, and then I've got it taped up here to where that's the length that it needs to be. One thing I do really like about that Atlas jack plate is it's all one unit. There is no hydraulic pumps or tanks or anything to mount inside. And so if I ever buy a big unit like that, I'm going to be buying that one. We went ahead and ran our wires back here again. Not worried about that right now. And then our control cables, we ran them back in here, and I've got them locked down. Throttle cable and transmission cable on the bottom, if you can see that. Hopefully, I'm not going to worry about, having super crazy camera angles, even though I understand it's easier to watch. And so at this point, we've got our new wire harness down here. You will notice that I pulled a green wire out and then I taped it off. I always use the green wire for my navigation wire. So that one will actually turn around and go right back up here to this hole. And then at this point, this is our relay for the jack plate. Okay, and I need to mount that in here. And then we have our wires for the outboard, and then our wires for the jack plate. We'll kind of tuck them and wrap them around to where we can mount a battery and keep everything relatively organized right now until we get the battery in there and get that taken care of. So at this point, I think it's time to go ahead and put our helm together. If you've never done that, it's a little nerve-wracking, but it's pretty simple. I'll show you how to do it. So let's just get started. So here's our hardware, and it may look a little, overwhelming, but don't worry about it. Okay, you have 3 basic sizes of hardware, and you will have 2 longer pieces of hardware. Now these are the ones that will go through the back here and index both of our cables, right? So the end of our cable and the end of our grease tube, you'll have what looks like this, and then this bolt will sit in this notch through that hole, okay? And that's how both of the cables, or the cable and the grease tube, attach on either side. And we look at our mounting plate here, okay? Our mounting plate is going to require a hole that is about this big, and this sunburst of bolt holes right here will mount on the helm, and you'll be able to index the helm however you need to based on routing your cables. Okay, so our hole will need to be about 2 inches. Okay, and then that's what these 3 bolts here are for. Okay, these 3 bolts with the lock nuts will go into these tapped holes right here. And then these 3 right here is what's left over, a little bit bigger, 5/16 hardware. Okay, they will be mounting the plate in a 3-bolt pattern, okay, through the console top. That's it. That is what's required to mount this unit. Now, let's go ahead and look at running our cable in here and getting our bolts in. So based on our old helm, you see we got the grease tube on the lower side and then the cables going on the high side. If that's not correct, we will actually be turning the wheel in the wrong direction when we turn the outboard. So I'm just going to follow what this one's like, and if it's wrong, we'll just go ahead and take it back apart and flip sides. Okay, I would like for that to be a little tighter, so I don't know, I might put a clamp on that. But for now, we'll just go ahead and I'll get this thing mounted in here. I tell you what, I have a little bitty clamp that fits right on there, a little hose clamp. So we're gonna just jam it right on there and make sure that that thing don't fall off. There you go. That ought to work. Now, all I need to do is go ahead and put this in here and start turning it, and it should go around the wheel. But before I do that, I want to get a little bit of grease on there. I don't have a whole lot in this tub, but what I do have, I want to just kind of fill this up a little bit. See if we can get it to work. Okay, there we go. I'm pretty much just going to turn this until it pulls the tube. I want this to go right in here to where I can get a bolt on it. Just like that. Now, I should be able to, I'll use my washer. Put my bolt in there. Hopefully. Yep, we got it. Okay. All right, we got a little snafu. So, let me just explain this the best I know how. It's supposed to be a stand-up, sit-down console. However, when you stand up, you're pretty much right on top of the console, gut-wise, okay, for me anyway. Now, my heels being against the gas can kind of causes an issue. One thing I failed to realize, and I've done this before, is that steering wheels have different offsets, as well as they all have a spacer. I tend to forget this spacer, and, well, that 2.5 inches, generally being miscalculated, comes out to be a pain in my ass sometimes. As you can imagine, mounting the steering wheel like that versus mounting it like that, when you're talking about having room. Now, I actually like standing up and leaning against the console because, I mean, you all know the boat's moving around, right? And if you can put your gut against it and turn, you're pretty stable. But, on the other hand, having that spacer in there and pushing it back on me another 2 inches would have me leaning back on my heels way more than what I would like. So here's what we're going to do. Instead of putting that spacer on there, and instead of cutting a square in here to recess the whole thing and use that spacer, I'm just not going to use the spacer. That kind of creates its own issues, but obviously the spacer fell on the bottom of the floor. But basically, I'm going to make a U out of some 1/8 inch and offset the mounting plate. So instead of this being on top of the console, now it will be down lower and the top of the console will be here. And instead of us drilling a 2.5 inch hole in the deck, now we'll only be drilling a 1 inch hole for the shaft of the helm. Is it right? I don't know. Will it work? Absolutely. Guarantee it. It's times like this that kind of make me... I should have thought about it. I should have left a little bit more room. But we all know when it comes to building a console like this and setting one up, if anything is off a couple inches, it just feels awkward. I would much rather have something tight to where I can lean my shin against, the side and I could lean my belly against the steering wheel or my lower torso and be able to reach standing up and sitting down, right? Than I would be sitting down and have this thing out at arm's length or stand up and actually have to, take a full step from the seat. It is what it is. And another thing on top of that, my body type may not fit your body type. I'm 5'11", 260, so I'm kind of average, a little overweight. So if it fits me, chances are it's going to fit you. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but this is what we're doing. Well, boys, that right there is how you do it. We have prevented 2.5 inches of height off of this, and the steering wheel still has about a 1/4 inch of clearance. But from the side profile, man, it looks so much sexier. I'm telling you. And then, if you could see in a hyperlapse there a little bit, that gives me a little bit more room to stand up. So, I am pleased with that. I'm going to be doing that again. I'll give you the underneath here. See what it looks like. We welded both sides. But I can't complain. For a drop back and punt scenario, I'm happy with that. Well, I think that's enough for one day. Kind of a wild episode. I realize, some of it we missed and some of it just kind of flew by without a whole lot of explanation. Sorry, that's what the comments are for. Join me along on all my other social medias. I just turned my Facebook over to a professional digital creator account, which means I need your help. If you follow me here, please go follow my Facebook page because I need to get that to 35K so I can monetize it. As well as we posted 4 reels there today, 3 reels on Instagram, and I did 3 videos on TikTok today. And then this is the 3rd day in a row that we've posted to YouTube and got shop work done. So when I say I'm serious about making my social media grow and make my social media money, as well as show you guys all the cool shit that I do on the daily, I mean it. Share it out. Follow #White River Rambo. As always, shoot straight, shoot off, and don't forget to wear them PFDs, and I'll see you tomorrow. How's that?